Just to, there was a small correction there, Veronica. I'm hoping you can just help me there. We got some feedback from Dama I last night about the expiry of the CDMP associate mark. Basically, we were told that your CDMP fundamentals associate one remains until there's a revise of the DMBOK. Okay, so only if when we go to version 3, then you lose your CDMP associate if you haven't got the master and the other levels over there. So that's a bit of a change as to what we understood. Veronica, am I correct there in that
Yes.
feedback?
Even on the frequently asked questions and the stuff on their website, they say that your DM fundamentals pass the mark. If you get a practitioner pass or a master pass, you lose it after 3 years. And we've been telling people they must finish their specialist exams before their 3 years is up, or they're going to have to rewrite their fundamentals to get a, it'll revert back to an associate pass. And we've been told now they are not enforcing that.
Yes.
So you don't lose your fundamentals pass mark.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was, and then they also just said there's no definition on when the architecture exam will be delivered. Yes, Mark.
I'm just thinking it makes sense. Fundamentals are fundamental.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Redoing fundamentals every 3 or 5 years is cuckoo. Teach me new things, new skills. I need to learn data management for AI now, right? Not what's on the DMBOK page 101.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. Yeah, 100%. I think the thing that just disappoints is that it doesn't incentivize people to certify fully.
Right.
To go all the way to practitioner, and the numbers that Debbie shows is it makes it clear. Only 199 people are masters, and what was it, 500 and something are practitioners, and people get a CDMP associate and then they're happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
That they haven't incentivized full certification.
Correct.
Alrighty. It's I'm still not sure that I'll make it through on time, so let me try to get going as quickly as possible.
You never make it through on time.
Yes, that's true. Irrespective of when I start. Okay, I apologize. Okay, great. This is our last section on business goals drive data management. Nice to see everybody with us. And let's see, this is basically what I'm trying to do here is I've tried to spend lots of time finding out and making sure that whatever I do in my data program is aligned to the business. And what I really felt is let me go to the body of knowledge for business architecture and make sure I understand that body of knowledge, and then make sure I can ask the enterprise architect or the business architect for the right information so that I can ensure that we have some alignment. Okay. Now, today, we want to deal with it at an executive level. So this is what I'm going to be focusing on today. And so the areas that I want to focus on is the value mapping. So how do we ensure that my data initiatives are going to talk to the value mapping that's been defined by business architecture? Now, I don't know how many of you have looked at some of those strategy maps, the Porter model, SWOT analysis, those types of things. Where do we get our anchor? Where do we link ourselves to? And then how do we determine the business impact when things change? And then some of the issues around trends and challenges that business architecture is facing at the moment. That was quite interesting. And then what are the key questions that the executive has around business architecture? And that we see as well, why do we need a business architecture? What happens if we don't have a business architecture? What do I do? Sometimes I've maybe gone out a bit too far when I say if you want to build a data strategy and you don't have a business strategy, I'd recommend that you put it on pause. not too many people are very excited with that answer. So how do we go about it in the meantime? What do we do? Where should we start? And then what do I need to know to earn a seat at the table? Now I'm talking about the leadership table. As a CDO, CDAO, as a data executive, how do I justify my contribution to the leadership table? How do I get there? And I'm sure many of you have seen lots of posts around the amount of time that CDOs remain in an organization. I think the average tenure was 2.4 was the last announcement. And that's not very long, certainly if you compare that to CFOs and other areas. Now, is that because data and AI is new, that we're constantly changing, or is it because we're not delivering value or what's expected? Those are the challenges that we have to face. Okay, and then how can I be part of building the business strategy? Those are areas that we need to ask. Certainly, we don't want to be left behind, just always being dictated to by whatever the business architects and the business people are defining as their strategy. Can we contribute, and what can we contribute? Okay, I'm hoping you can agree that these days, data and digital or data and AI, there is so much more that we can contribute and we can help improve in all sorts of areas, improve our products, improve our efficiencies. So how do we become part of that business strategy? And if we're not really being invited and if we're not showing and demonstrating that we're adding value, well, they don't really ask us. They just say, well, please, can you get this done and help me with this thing? And so how do we change that relationship that we have on the leadership table? I don't know if any of you are facing that challenge at the moment or are trying to find ways on how to deal with it. It was almost about 7 or 8 years ago, we were setting up a program on one of the companies, and we kept on saying, "Oh, we need to report to business," and you know that thing that everybody says, the architects do it, the data people do it, everybody does it. And someone said to me, "Well, Howard, when you deserve a seat at the table, then you'll get a seat at the table. So what is it? How do you get the ticket to the table?" I don't know if is anyone facing that challenge? Is anyone having similar challenges that they face within their organization? Or am I, Brian? Yes, sir.
So definitely facing a challenge of getting a seat at the table. We have, a de facto CDO appointed in the business area of our agency, and IT is kind of left out.
Right.
And we keep trying to advise them and correct them on their missteps, but they keep making them, and it's very difficult to get that seat at the table as a data expert in the business when they consider IT just the technology partner.
Yeah. So and Brian, and I know you'll experience this as well, is that typically because we're so new on the block, and there's so much effort, you will still find that the trust and the respect is sort of a lot of times tend to be sort of at the CIO level. And so, we've got a long way to go to demonstrate it. I like the challenge, I must admit. I find it quite exciting. It's somewhat nice to grow into that area, but we need to know how to grow and what to focus on. So that's what I'm going to try to address today in terms of positioning ourselves. So simple question and answer. Why is it so hard to earn and maintain a seat at the business leadership table? So they may be really excited. Yeah, we've heard all this stuff about AI and everything, and it's going to change our world. Please come and help us. And then you get in there, but you can't stay there because you're not delivering the value. So that's the challenge. It's not just earning. They may be begging you to join because they've heard some amazing stories, but how do you maintain the seat at the table? Well, if you are not making a business impact by delivering value, you don't deserve it. That was the comment to me almost 4 years ago. I've never forgotten it, and I'm still making sure that I understand it and my understanding is better all the time. So let's go through some of these things. So what are the basic strategy frameworks that business architecture uses to visualize and explain how all these things fit together? Here's a whole myriad of different options, and you can see it was interesting when I went through the history of some of these areas. It was fascinating to see, this one tried it, but it was too simplistic. Then we went to this and also tried it, but it didn't do this. And then we tried this. And so we've been going round, not round, but I think it's continual improvement. We all recognize the Porter model as something that came about quite a long time ago, 2004, somewhere around that. And how do we use it? But it's or not there isn't one that's showing all of the things that we need to focus on. Okay, so what's the purpose of strategy mapping? So the first thing is to articulate a strategy that can be readily interpreted. So we need to visualize it. If we write all of these objectives and goals and things like that, and the impacts, there's so many things. I'm sure you saw on my Power BI model, there was something like 1,900 capabilities. How do we, and value propositions and things like that, how do we visualize all of this and how do we understand their relationships? And then we need to be able to act on areas, focal points that executives should incorporate into the strategy planning efforts. So what are the important elements to bring in and focus on? Now, there are multiple approaches. Each has certain uses and strengths. Most of them are providing a graphical depiction of goals, objectives, courses of action, and then alignment to the organization as a backdrop. So that's what a lot of them are trying to present. We have to be able to find the one that we can work with. But here is the metadata model that I didn't show last week. I found a really nice mapping between the Business Architecture Guild and BACM, which is the OMG model on metadata. And these are the important elements to us in terms of the strategy. The strategy incorporates goals and achieves objectives. That's what our strategy is there to do, is to understand the goals that we want to do and achieves the objectives, which then achieves our goals. Now, to achieve the objectives have to target our value streams, where we're delivering value, and the capabilities that we have within the organization. Now, information management is a capability within the organization, and how do we ensure that it plays the right role and we have the right change to be able to bring about that. And whilst we're bringing these objectives in, what is the course of action that they have agreed on or that they have presented? Now, for me, that's almost the first place I want to go to when I build my data strategy, is to say, where are we? What is the business strategy? What are the objectives? What are the goals? So that when I build my data strategy, it's about helping achieve these goals and objectives and course of action. Okay. So the OMG on their strategy model, they talk about a means to an end, the choices that we have, the operating model that's required, the value model that where the ends contribute to, and then what's the change and what initiatives. So can you see if we have this data model or the meta model of all of this area, we should be able to ensure that our strategies tackling the right areas. We should not have elements on our strategy that are not talking to these aspects of the business. And we should be challenging them, the business people, to say, well, why do you want to do this? Why are we building this fancy AI model when it doesn't address our objectives and goals? I think we all know that sometimes our data scientists are brought into the organization and they just say, and this is the comment of, find something useful to me so that I can innovate my business. Where's the guidelines and the guardrails as to what is useful and what is beneficial if we don't have this available to us? Okay, so we have to be careful of looking under every rock, picking up every stone, sometimes the wrong stones, the wrong places, and the wrong things. And then people are saying, well, what is the benefit of all of this work that you're doing? Okay, so objective mapping is important to us. And it goes, this is the type of example. Now, please, there are lots of these, and this is where the complexity comes in. It's not just increased profits, there are all sorts of other areas. And to do that, we can be looking at worldwide revenue or total cost of ownership on our vehicles. There's all sorts of things that can come into play, and we need to have an understanding of where and what do we need to work on. And if the business needs data for fleet acquisition or site identification, how do we support them? Total cost of management, how do we reduce that cost of management? Okay, how do we contribute to these elements in the objectives? But we've got to find them, we've got to understand them, and then we've got to work on them. That's got to be part of our area. So there's the strategic objectives. All of these objectives collectively aggregate into that strategic objective. Okay, and we must make sure that we are contributing and helping that aggregate. Okay. All right, now, what is our relationship to the value stream? There's one value stream, that is the value proposition. Basically, the value proposition is we want to, and the value item is we want to make a profit on disposal. When we have vehicle disposal as a strategy objective, we want to increase the profit, okay, to the disposal executive, right? So they are the ones that are responsible for achieving this value, this strategic objective. So we can see here, this is the process or the stream of doing that asset disposal. These are the capabilities that are required. These are the value items in terms of if we prepare our vehicles properly, can we find a way of increasing the vehicle pricing or the negotiation? And look at the sale price. What's the outcome of that? What's the cost challenges that we face? And to be able to provide the people with the right decision making along this journey. Okay, so helpful for us to be able to look at every single one of these steps and say, where can we add value? Where are the important decisions being made in terms of this? How far do I do my vehicle preparation? How much money do I spend on it before the cost increase is just outweighing it? That's a tricky situation. I remember working for a company that did bathroom, we called it Bathroom Bazaar, and they would go and set up all the bathroom services from the taps to the hand wash to everything that was there. And of course, they had to service all of their customers. So they had fleets of vehicles that were running around all over the place. And then they were getting into a challenge. Do we sell them every year? Do we rent them? Do we buy them? How do we build this? Now, at that stage, we hadn't heard of AI or models, decision models. And there was this poor CFO that was trying to keep all of these figures in his head and trying to make sense of it. And I remember him going through a couple of iterations and one or two failures, really bad mistakes of what to do with the fleet. Okay, so I still remember it to this day, and I mean it was interesting to have those discussions. Okay, so this the framework. We have our SWOT analysis. We use this quite a lot in our data strategy. I like using it, and basically it surfaces internal perspectives and external. And so the S and the O are our areas that we want to capitalize on. Those are strengths and opportunities. But the O is an external opportunity and the S is an internal one. And then our W and T, these are weaknesses and threats that need to be addressed. Weaknesses are internal weaknesses. Threats are external, those are external. So where's a great place to start? For example, if we understand some of the weaknesses with our data or our data management coming from the data management maturity assessment, we need to be able to eradicate all of our weaknesses as quickly as possible. So that's areas that we can link onto. The 5 forces model. So this focuses threats in a finer lens. So it looks at the threats of competition, the threats for our buyers, the threats on our suppliers. So it's a threat model, and it doesn't deal with a lot of the opportunities. So you need to know when to play that one. Norton Kaplan, that's almost the business strategy scorecard or the balance scorecard. It's a discipline to ensure that strategy has specific objectives for stakeholders and customers. And we speak about our customer value propositions, but it must be aligned to human resources, information technology, organizational culture. It's a quite a complex structure, but it's one that I tend to gravitate towards because it gives me lots of details on all the different roll-up and the different steps. And I remember having a discussion where someone said, oh no, they've thrown it out and they've gone to OKRs. I don't know how many of you have seen that experience. There was that runaway into OKRs and the one metric that matters. The one metric that matters was a little bit better because it had a whole cake layer of metrics, but the OKR was just a simple expression. And sometimes, for example, that one where we had that objective right at the top, how did it roll up and break down that I couldn't see in an OKR? Has anyone had that experience with trying to work with those objective key results, OKRs? Nobody. Okay. It's a nice and easy way out. That balance scorecard is an absolute mission, and I'm going to show you. But it's hard to piece everything together and keep the whole world together in the balance scorecard. Business motivation. That's a business motivation model. That's also part of the OMG, and that's mapping those means and ends. Okay, how do I achieve the ends? With what means do I achieve the ends? And this is Hoshin Kanri, and this is a Japanese name for one of the models. And does anyone, I guess now, our data quality people should know this. Who invented this model? This is a strategy framework. And there's a famous data quality aspect person that comes from there. Anyone like to take a guess? I'm sure Veronica can. Think of it as a multiple choice.
Is it Ishikawa?
Ishikawa, that's the one, Professor Ishikawa. I was amazed to see him back in action with another model, not just the fishbone diagram. So there he is. He cross-maps concepts of missions, goals, objectives, course of actions, KPIs. He does that mapping as over and above the root cause mapping, root cause analysis. Okay, so the end result of our strategy mapping is a set of measurable objectives, priorities, and course of action. This is what we're looking for. We want to know what those measures are. And of course, we're going to have to be building dashboards. We're going to have to be building analysis on how to increase the objectives, how to improve it. And we'd have to be able to say, if you think of every single KPI on business performance measurement, we should be asking the question on that ratio, what happened in the last period? Why did it happen? What can we do to improve the outcome? And then when will we achieve our target? Those are the types of questions we should be supplying from a data analysis decision making. Okay. So management can act on to deliver change. So they once they see these objectives and priorities, that's where they set their course of action and they start running with it. Okay. Now, what it does do is it frames the strategy formulation around identifying objectives, goals, and priorities and actions, and then applying them. So that's what this strategy mapping is trying to do for us. Make it actionable. That's where we're trying to work. So let's have a look at some of these. This is Ansoff product market grid, and this is a really good starting point where you have 4 distinct value propositions. What is your market penetration? How are you developing the market? Okay, your product and service development, and then diversification. And you can see these are the different quadrants that you're working in. Okay, so the nice thing about it is what it's forcing you to do in the beginning is look outward to what's happening in the market. and then understand the opportunities that you have to tackle the market. Okay, so it's really just, this is what's going on in the market. How do I tackle the market? Okay, it doesn't deal with the important things like threats, okay, and weaknesses. So it's not dealing with those things. It's really just focusing on the opportunities. And of course, we look at the competitors and things like that, so we can see some of the threats. SWOT analysis, also top-down planning, that's what it looks like. Helpful, strengths and opportunities, harmful, weaknesses and threats. And so it combined the lenses of organizational capabilities in terms of our internal strengths and weaknesses, and then the analysis of the external environment with opportunities and strengths. This is widely used, but it's not strong enough to guide action. Okay, now I don't know how many of you have actually worked with this approach, which is called TOWS, where what you're doing is it's actually SWOT, that's SWOT reversed, but you're taking your opportunities and strengths and you're saying, well, with my strength and with my opportunities, what strengths can you use to capitalize on your opportunities? And then on the other side, with weaknesses and opportunities, is what weaknesses must be mitigated to capitalize on your opportunities. So now you're asking yourself the question, now you're trying to guide what it is that you need to do, your objectives, and your strategy that you're trying to achieve. So that's a helpful follow on from the SWOT. Turn it around now and use what you've identified to answer some of these questions. Okay. All right, 5 forces model. This is Porter, and you can see, look at potential entrants, threats of new entries, bargaining power, industry competitors, buyers, bargaining power of buyers, and then substitute products and services. It's a simple example of we trying to do online training face-to-face, and then someone comes up with a Udemy product. Okay, now you can do all in learning and you don't need to do face-to-face. Yes, it's nice in a way, but so what is the substitute, and what people will go for the substitute, what people won't go for the substitute? We need to understand that, those forces that we are dealing with. Okay, and then competitive differentiators. How do we differentiate ourselves from new entrants, industry competitors? How do we understand that? And then the problem that we have with 5 forces is that it doesn't look at how we're doing internally. Okay, so please, again, if you go to business architecture and they present that to you, that's fine. Thank you very much. But how do I help my internal stakeholders? How do I help them get better at what they are doing? So you've given me one side, but what about the other side? Here's the Norton Kaplan, and I'm sure you can see, just to give you this understanding, for those of you that have worked on a balanced scorecard, I'm sure you know that. Has anyone here worked on balanced scorecard? Tried to put one of these things together? That was it was actually came about in SharePoint many years ago, where they implemented a balanced scorecard and BI. You could use BI to populate the balanced scorecard. Any of you have any experience on a balanced scorecard? Okay. So it was just my painful experience, but maybe that's why I like it. Okay, so let's try to read it and show you what needs to happen. So where we need to start is, in some cases, especially in these supporting environments, we need to start off with culture, with leadership, alignment, and collaboration, and we need to be very aware of that. How does that roll up into the internal perspective, i.e. operations, customer management, innovation management, regulatory and policy? How do we roll what we are doing into these areas? And then how does that roll into the customer value proposition? And again, whenever we see these customer value propositions, we can say, right, what can I do? What data can I provide to help improve those value propositions? And then it rolls up into financial perspective. So cost structures, asset utilization, revenue opportunities, and customer value. Now you can see this side of the strategy map focuses on productivity. This side of the strategy map focuses on customer value and growth of the business. So again, helpful for you to read that and understand which area you're looking at and how you can contribute. Okay, now what Norton Kaplan did, or the balanced scorecard, is every single goal that we have here, they want to define a measure, and then they want to build this hierarchy that we can roll things up, very much like that objective map that we had. You want to be able to roll it all the way up to say, this is what we're doing here. Now, I don't know how many of you attended my presentation on metrics and business performance. I presented the different approaches from balanced scorecard to OKRs to one metric that matters and that cake layer. And it's sort of taking metrics and rolling it all the way up to the top so we all know what we're doing. And at that stage, that was the first time I learned about Spotify. And they had the one metric that matters was listening hours. Everybody from HR to governance to technology, they had to demonstrate how they were contributing to listening hours, meaning how long is this person listening and spending time on Spotify? What are you doing? And how do you align yourself? Okay, so that was what Norton Kaplan was doing and trying to set up. Okay, now this is the business motivation model, also quite nice. Its focus is very much on what is our mission, the end, and what is our means to get to the end, our assessment of that in terms of the potential impact on influences, and then the rules and the external areas that we are dealing with. That's what the focus is on. Okay, and everything from policies to business rules, this is what we bring into this model over here. So it brings all of these things into a formal structure. Unfortunately, it doesn't map that onto our value proposition and our business capabilities and actions and things like that, or the data. You can't see any aspect of data here, can you? Okay, and so what we have to be doing quite a lot of the times is then going and almost using that noun verb approach that we use for data modeling and say, that means an end, or that goal and objectives. Can we find any reference to our data objects? And then we'll define that mapping to be able to navigate that hierarchy. Okay. So it identifies factors that motivate establishing business plans, identify and define elements of the business plan, and identifies how these factors interrelate. What is the connection between these factors? Okay, so this is that Hoshin cannery. That's what it looks like. Can you see it goes almost round and round, where you define the goals that then relate to the objectives, and then we get the initiatives and projects that we're doing, and then we see how we've changed the key performance indicators, which measure how we're achieving the goals and objectives, and this is the map that he put forward. Okay, so developed by Ishikawa. It's Japanese for a compass. Okay, a course, a policy, a plan indicating how we're going to navigate through these different areas. And you can see the greens are where we're connecting, which goal is connecting to which objective. Okay, and the reds are where we're removing some of these things and we haven't got anything done. So there's almost your heat map of what's going on. Okay, now using something like this, all employees need to understand the goals that we're trying to achieve. Okay. Initiatives are aligned to the goals. So from the initiatives that look far away, we link them up via this being driven by objectives and being measured by KPIs. We link to our goals. Okay. Employees work together on the same objectives to make the goal a reality. So this almost brings the system together. Now, when I did that business performance measurement, someone was saying they really like this one metric that matters because everybody they must have them all over the walls and everybody can see what role they play in achieving that top level metric KPI. And a lot of our change managers liked it because They see, can you see, this is where we need to connect. This is where you play. This is where you contribute. It's allowing people to connect into the organization and add the value. Okay, now it certainly helps us to understand where we need to contribute and where we can contribute. What are all the appropriate measurements? Our critical data elements are going to be coming out of these key performance indicators. We need to work and understand that. Okay, so then there's this strategy impact. So when we design these objectives or goals, objectives, and metrics, when we have these things, there's a process of saying, now that I've got that, what does that mean to my business architecture and to me? So the first thing is goals and objectives are defined in our strategy. Now, with the strategy, we go and talk to the SMEs, the subject matter experts, and we ask them for KPIs that will help us measure our achievement of the goal and objective. Fantastic. We're getting that done. Okay. Now, using that, we can use our nouns and verbs and then connect it to the value stream and the information concepts. Okay. So this strategy, what value streams are they going to impact and what information concepts? And using that, we can map it to our capability and initiatives. Okay, so really what we're trying to do is understand all of the different impacts within the architecture that the new strategy has brought about. What are our action indicators and how do we link everything together? Everything that we do, we must be able to align to what's happening up here and specifically our data, information concepts, and business objects. Okay. All right. Before I go in just almost a summary of that, are there any questions around those strategy frameworks and strategy impact analysis? Has anyone got a question for me? I'm hoping you probably would have interrupted, but maybe not. Okay, no question. All right, so let me go to then some of the reviews on the business architecture. We want to look at.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Hi, Howard. Shyam this side.
Hi,
Uh,
Shyam.
so, I mean, all the 5 processes is well explained, but let's say we need to, go for elevator pitch. And so what will be the very crisp and very introductory pitch to bring the business or bring the client uh, their interest towards data governance or data management?
Oh, okay. So let me try to. I'm actually going to start addressing it in these next topics. I'm going to answer
Okay.
your next question. So if you'll give me a couple of minutes, hopefully I'll be able to answer it. If not, I will come back and answer it for you. Okay.
Yeah. Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Howard.
Fantastic, fantastic. Those are always the best questions, the ones that are answered in a subsequent slide. Okay. All right. So let me go to just the key topics that we've addressed. Okay. The first thing is understanding. We as data people understand the value stream, how the business is making money, what decisions they need to work on, what outcomes they need to achieve. And Shyam, these are the important areas. When we understand what's driving the business and we can help them drive the business quicker, faster, and better and more innovative, that's when we add value. That's when they start enjoying the fact that governance is not just pulling the handbrake, but it's actually contributing to the value of the organization. That's the first message that we have to keep on saying. Don't keep on saying, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't do that, your data privacy, all of these things. That's not where we want to go in terms of stopping them from everything they do. Okay, that's a very unpleasant experience to be in. I know a few of us have been there. It's not nice when everyone is saying you can't do it and no, you can't do it because there are problems. Okay, I don't like that approach. Now, we also have the Porter value chain that put us in our position in terms of technology, human resources. This is where we were. We were value supporting, And that's where we need to start. We need to recognize that we are supporting the value creating activities, but we need to know what part are we supporting? How do we help them? How do we make sure that the data that we give them helps them with inbound logistics, helps them improve their operations, outbound marketing? So you really want to know what's contributing to the margin of the business. And then do whatever you can to make sure they've got the right data to make the right decisions. Okay. Now, what we are finding, which is really exciting for me, is that we no longer have to be restricted to value supporting activities. Okay, we can be building data products that create value. Okay, and how do we do that and how do we bake it in? That's what we need to be looking for. So these things are blurring. Long time ago, applications always used to sit in the back end. Now they're not. Now they're coming right to the front, to the foreground, and they're able to help us transition from value supporting to value creating. But we must never forget that we start off in value supporting. Until we've got our data at a trustworthy level that's helping, and then we're becoming data driven, okay, we are in value supporting mode. Okay. All right. Now there's another thing which is called a value network, and this thing just makes everything more complicated, where the executive team is now getting value from all sorts of people. Can you see the input to strategy, input to strategy, input to strategy, insights? They're coming from all over the place, and they can be technology providers, they can be advisory, partners, resellers. All of these people can help contribute. And so what this message is really saying, there's a whole lot of information we need to collect, is the idea of a customer is less clear. Okay, more than one person is contributing value, and this is where our challenges, and that's what the executive needs to deal with. Okay, and then let's take a step back in terms of the challenges that business architecture is facing. So many things are the complexity of what's going on. The radical development in data and digital AI is introducing cohesive challenges. Now we're getting this and we're getting this. So now all of a sudden, when we always used to complain that technology is a silver bullet, every time we turn, every moment we open our eyes, there's a new silver bullet that's on the radar, and it's going to help do all sorts of stuff with the business. Now, how do we keep this to our goals, objectives, and strategy? How do we keep it ring-fenced and make sure we're all going in the right direction? The skills gap. Okay, the intersection between business, data, and digital. Who's playing a role in that area? Okay. Sustainability, products and services that are environmentally conscious and sustainable. Inclusivity, diverse needs is becoming a priority. Our customer diverse needs are becoming priority, and we have to deal with them. And then balancing agility or innovation with stability. I'm sure all of you have been in those type of situations where we know that change causes instability. The day you change a model or you change an application, the next day we've got customers shouting, we've got all sorts of problems. So how do we get this right balance? We can't just go on the bleeding edge. We have to be able to be cautious in that area. Okay. Now coming to the executive in terms of the questions, why do we need business architecture? We need to align to everything, goals, objectives, stakeholders. We need to know who we're supporting. What is our capability? Where are the business units that we are supporting? How do we support and drive business initiatives? And then what business decisions are made when? When are these business decisions made? And do we have the right data to support that? Frequency, latency, whatever it is. Now, Shyam, I'm hoping you see that when we understand that language, okay, we can help answer those questions and help support their challenge and their goal to achieve what it is that we're doing. What happens if we don't have a business architecture? Okay, so my recommendation is quickly, yeah, that's the 5 wives and a husband. It's always helpful to break it down. Quickly, we should be supporting a business case to build one. If that's going to take a while and you got some time, Make use of an industry model just as a blueprint. Please don't force your business to become like the industry model. Okay, it's a blueprint. It's a place to start asking questions of the relevant stakeholders. So that industry model helps you ask the right questions. Okay. And then we go on to where should we start? Well, we want to start at knowing what the objectives are, what initiatives are in play to reach those objectives, and then how do we integrate our data and digital to support these initiatives. So understand the foundations and then enable decision making, value delivery, and vertical lineage. So from a data set, can we link that to a value proposition? Okay, how do we ensure not just horizontal lineage from the data comes in here and lands up on this report? What about the vertical lineage? How do we get it all the way up to the top? Okay, that's important to us. Now, what are the behaviors that a CDO, an executive, or a data team need to contribute? Well, first of all, we need to enable change. Okay. So most employees are not sufficiently data and digital literate. Okay, when we come onto those leadership boards, not all of them are there. Okay, so how do we help them get there? How do we help people change? And to help them change, sometimes we have to challenge the status quo. Now, you have to do that very carefully, and that's where the devil's advocate comes into play of push back a little bit on groupthink or contrarian, uh, can only challenge if you're abreast of the business strategy, the performance. So if you don't know this, what the business strategy is and how they're performing, you can't challenge the status quo. Okay, you don't understand it well enough. Okay, be the most data literate person in the room. Okay, demonstrate how data can be transformed to information to deliver value. And then, of course, the important thing is being impact oriented. So everything we do, help people understand the short and long-term impact of their decision, articulate economic and strategic value of data and analytics, and change from being data-oriented, just focusing on data sets and critical data elements, to decision-oriented. How do we help them make the decisions? How do we help them achieve the value that they're looking for? Okay. And then how can I be part of a business strategy? Well, impact the business. There's your bottom line. Start making a change, start getting a seat at the table by improving their decision making, increasing the value both to internal and external by baking your data in there to business products. Ensure you're getting ROI on your information management program and initiative, and then establish trustworthy and meaningful insights. So you should be asking yourself the question, I need to understand my key customer and business pain points. Okay, build that transparency, then be able to connect all of these dots together and bring about that relationship. Okay, Shyam, did I answer some of your questions?
Yes, yes, Howard. Thanks very much for, it's such a great explanation. Thank you.
Okay, so what I like to say is be careful on forcing people to become data driven when what you should be doing is become value driven. You as an information enterprise data, you should become value driven, and then people will start to think and contemplate being value driven, or actually become data driven and insights driven. Okay, are there any other questions?
Hello, I have a question, Mr. Howard.
Yes, Mohammed. Salam alaikum.
Yes. Yeah, do you hear me clearly?
Yes, I do. I do.
Great. Well, thanks for the roadmap of the data strategy. This is very important as we get a lot of questions from the leadership regarding the data use cases,
Yes.
either on the data management domains or data privacy. But some of the questions we get is the value, as you mentioned, the value out of this strategy and strategy mapping. So creating a value is a very important part of the data strategy. and what really matters to the leadership is, do we have throughout this strategy an implementation of an AI use case?
Yes.
And my question here, do we really need to do an implementation or a full implementation as a pilot for an AI use case to show the value of data?
Okay.
Or just we need to stick to the roadmap of the strategy and use work on identifying our data management use cases.
Okay, it's a very great question, Mohammed, and I it sounds like you in Saudi and you are having to adhere to the NDMO, and there's that one domain which is called the data value realization domain. Is that correct?
That's right, sir.
Okay, now what we did, Mohammed, and it was very interesting. Paul was on. We worked for MUDON, the Authority of Industrial Cities. And we actually found a very simple BI project that would help deliver value and create revenue that we could contribute to those. Remember the two categories of value use cases is revenue generation and cost reduction. And cost reduction had risk mitigation. Now, you don't need to have AI in there, but you can certainly use AI. And what I like to be able to do is when I get into this map over here, I like to be able to challenge both of my BI people and my AI people and ask them, what insight can you bring to help us improve the price, the quality, the availability? Show me what you can do. So show me the use cases. Now, Mohammed, I like to link my AI use cases to my data strategy, the use cases that data strategy brings, and that's that specification DG 101, which is the information requirements from the business. I like to keep those linked in, both from a data governance strategy to a data value realization use case portfolio to an AI and decision BIA. That's your business intelligence and advanced analytics. So helpful. When you look at all of these things, don't discount one or the other. You need to be able to deliver some value, but you also need to be able to focus on being NDMO compliant. So whilst you're building these value use cases, you also need to be able to build all your data governance, your data quality, data integration, data catalogs, metadata at the same time. You need to find a way of balancing it. And if you are interested, we can show you the technique that we did to build a use case portfolio and then ask, well, assess the quality, do the master data, do the reference, whatever it was, to be able to deliver it. Answer your question?
Yes, but I have also another question.
Okay.
Regarding the strategy build-ups and the roadmap.
Yes.
As you might know, in many organizations, they use for their own strategy a benchmark for other organizations. Does that really make, I mean, the focus, when we get asked why we need a benchmark, we don't want a benchmark sitting in
Mohammed, you broke up a lot, but what I can say to you is that in the beginning, when we start out our program, is it just me that's, am I battling with my network, or is it Mohammed?
It's Mohammed, Howard.
Okay.
I think my network.
Okay, Mohammed, so you ask a very important question, and sometimes there's too much focus on the benchmark. I will just challenge you to say, well, are you delivering value for the business? And then whilst you're busy building value for the business, then it's okay to start comparing yourself to other people in the same area, other countries, whatever it is. But that's not your main focus. Your main focus is to deliver value to the business.
Great. This is a great and clear to me. Thank you, Howard.
Afwan,
Shukran.
anything else? Paul, what about you?
Howard, the only thing that I suppose just need to spend time is deciding on which strategy framework is best, or
Right,
the
Paul, I don't think
combination.
that,
And
I think there's a
yeah,
combination. You know,
yeah,
there's and what is helpful for me was to understand my the things that it doesn't produce.
yes,
And I like this one as we're focusing on the market, but we're not focusing on ourselves. So how do we contribute that to the SWOT, and then how do we link this to the all the different areas? So I think it's about bringing this together, not going too much. All right, you can't have 20 models,
yes,
but it is about building a set of elements that can help guide your thinking to be able to define the products. So this one is really good. This one over here is really good to define what products can you supply the market, and what is appropriate for the
yeah,
market at this point
yeah.
in time. And so it depends on what's biting your, I'm going to say what's biting your bum at this point in time, but that's the thing is, and then choose the one that addresses that area. That's where your focus is.
Thanks, Howard. Yeah, just laughed at that.
Yeah. Yeah. If we can just, if we and I think what's important is, remember, we as data executives are not responsible for this. So we've got to make sure that people are doing it, but
Yeah,
we've got to be able to understand it and ask them questions. It's challenging the status quo. Do you think that we can just not have this performance measurement or KPIs or whatever it is, guys? We can't keep on going like this. We need to be more comprehensive and more complete in our understanding of where we're going as a business.
yeah, because I think you said that because I was getting lost in which model to, and it's not bad to ask the question, but the better, the bigger question is what you said just now is, how do I link what I'm doing with
Yes.
data management to something
Yes.
in that strategy model, so that I
Yes.
can continuously remind them of the value that
That's right.
of what we're doing here.
Yeah, and I like that one person's comment, and I mean, isn't it a nice situation to be in? For how many years I've worked in IT, and I've always got bombarded and criticized by business for not doing what they want, not adding value for years. I think I've lived my life in that situation. And there's Bryant, which he just said, isn't it nice to be able to flip the script on businesses and say, now, where is your stuff? Show me what you are doing, and is this right? Are you addressing the right areas rather than, oh, I'm trying to do this data strategy, data governance, and they say, what for? Why do we need it?
I like exactly that. I like that. Yeah. And put it back in their court and say, well, this is why we're doing it.
Yes,
How
correct.
do you expect to get that metric if we don't do what we're doing with this piece or this capability or this piece of the value chain or stage or value
Right.
proposition? Yeah.
Right. Now, I was doing a talk on data management maturity assessment this morning, and one of the things I pointed out to my people is saying, are you aware of the fact that business architecture and enterprise architecture is responsible for uplifting the maturity of all capabilities, information and data management being one of them? Okay, it's their responsibility. Now, a lot of the times we get the criticism, and Paul, you remember that we walked into an organization and there was a big write-up from business architecture to say the business risk is there's no data governance and data management. Remember that criticism? And it's a valid one.
Yes.
And we need to help put it in place and then help grow it with them. So how do we connect better with our business architecture people to make them look good in terms of take some of those red elements off the heat map of their maturity model and start to contribute in that way?
Thanks, Howard. No, I like that. Sure. Thanks.
Great. I can see people are dropping off, so
Yeah.
I just wanted to see, are there any other questions that anyone would like to ask? Mohammed, if you'd like to set up some time with us, we're happy to show you how to focus on the value-driven approach. If you can contact Paul, we'll set up some time and give you some examples of that.
Thank you, Howard. I think I'm enjoying the sessions. You touch point on many important aspects of the data management framework. One of it is the data strategy, which I enjoyed today's sessions. The things and the mapping you showed. So I'm trying to catch up with the time, and as I'm a member in your page on LinkedIn, and trying to find out for the upcoming sessions. So it will be. I don't want to rush you from your schedule, but I totally enjoyed the sessions, and
Thank you.
You'll see. You might see a lot of questions coming up in the next session. So
Fantastic.
I'll try to give some real examples and some real asks from today's and
that will be great. I hope.
And today's higher management asks. So this will also give you a feedback.
Yes. Fantastic. Okay, everybody, have a wonderful day, and we hope to see you next Thursday, or I think it's next Monday, Debbie. Have we got Barry Devlin on Monday?
No, we don't, because it's a public holiday.
Oh, okay.
It's been moved a week later.
Okay. All right. Thanks very much.
No, hang on. Next Monday is the 10th. He was going to be on the 17th, and then it got moved to the 24th, I remember.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And we won't be around.
Yeah, I'll have to pick it up from the far side. But let's see how it goes.
Depends where we are.
Yes. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. Take care.
Thanks so much, Howard. Brilliant.
Bye.
Thanks, Paul. Take
Awesome.
care, guys. Bye.